The story of Nigeria and the United States can best be captured as a tale of two different countries. It is appalling to Nigerians that the decision of the micro-blogging site Twitter to pull down an offensive tweet by President Muhammadu Buhari could lead to suspicion of its operation in the country. It does not end there. The Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, has ordered the arrest and prosecution of violators of the activation of Twitter in Nigeria. Jide, this is a very hot story and it's still running, and I don't think this is the last we've heard about the Twitter debacle. Now, I read a response from Twitter saying that they don't, I don't know, maybe that response was from Twitter, but if that response was actually from Twitter saying that they did not know President Muhammadu Buhari and they did not know he was the president of Nigeria.
The Twitter did not generate that. It's an individual, okay, a mischief maker on social media, sat down and concocted that thing
Story.
So that more and more people can support the action that the president has taken.
Oh,
you see, these days, it's dangerous to simply believe anything you see on social media. There's no way Twitter could have said that they didn't know who the president was and that they did not care.
Just Google it. See what leader
it's just that thing was cloned. It was cloned and meant to be like what Twitter said. Twitter, they never said such a thing. You know, many people have cross-checked and seen clearly that it's somebody who just wrote that. And I can tell you that
just to aggravate this situation.
Yes, the truth is, yes, Twitter's actions will be challenged because of inconsistency in even the implementation of his own rules.
Yeah.
Definitely people will ask questions, what's going on? How come somebody will be allowed to do live video and be calling for violence? And another person says something, and then you simply pull that down. Between the person calling for violence in a live video and the one who said something that appeared like he's baying for, he's promising violence, which is worse? I said at the time that for me, it was harsh to ban Twitter, especially an indefinite ban, the way that they have done. But that does not mean that Twitter had never been blameless. And technological giants must not come to the point when they will now be behaving like dictators themselves. Because when they decided to punish Trump in the way they did, I felt, how about the 70 million people who voted for Trump? Don't they also deserve to be heard? You are not a social enterprise. You are just a money-making company. And you are taking this kind of decisions, even getting extremely involved in political matters. So I still insist that a ban that we have carried out was harsh. But at the same time, I believe that Twitter needs to look at its operations and ask itself whether the way they are doing things was right. You can see that even the Indians too, they complained about him, the Turks complained, and they had to take some steps to make the government of Turkey happier. I believe that Nigeria would be able to get Twitter to take some steps that will allow for the suspension to be lifted. I've also heard that they've even begun to pull down some of Nnamdi Kanu's tweets. I do not know, I didn't bother to check, but if they've done that, that means that it has occurred to them that that was something that they could have done. Many Nigerians will find it difficult to, because they felt NSAS, that people are mobilized through Twitter those who came to burn TVC. In fact, on Twitter, they were threatening. They were saying, let's go there, this and that.
Oh, Julie, we are victims. Go and check our
Yes.
on Twitter.
Yes, some of them were threatening us.
Dragging us out every day. I don't bother checking it.
So now, that's why on this matter, the president got a lot of support. More than even, I know some people do not want to hear Buhari's name. But on this matter, they supported him because they felt that, look, these were the people that Twitter had allowed people to use that platform to foment trouble, to plan violence against the Nigerian state. And on this, Nigerians don't want our country to break up. If they think that Twitter has encouraged an individual to use his platform to do a lot of that, you can then understand why the president got as much support as he got on this matter, because a lot of, even my own friends on Facebook, whom I know do not particularly like the president, they said, no, Twitter was wrong because he did not treat Nnamdi Kanu the same way that he chose to treat the president.
Mr. President is saying that we'll speak to them in the language they understand. That was what he said. Reading from that is quotes, and that's inflamed all this controversy.
You see, when you look at all social media, the ground rules are not too difficult for anybody to understand. Whatever is offensive is not determined by Twitter or by Facebook, by any one of them. It's determined by the people, the users. If Jide comes up with anything, no matter how good or beautiful, if you and I decided that we feel offended by what is that is in about it, and we complained, the moment we complain, then they don't know whether it is good or bad. They just believe it is bad. They pull it down. Facebook does it. Others, do the same thing.
Even suspend your accounts.
You understand me? In this case, whether Twitter is right, whether Twitter is not right, I believe we should take actions and reflect deeply before we do. To me, this is too harsh. I believe we should have, if we have a grant, serious grant, that Twitter has done a lot of things and national security wise, we didn't like it. We give them, warning, suspension. Maybe the president account was suspended for a few hours, then his tweet was deleted. Now, what about the economic benefits, humongous benefits that we can make from it? We need to think about all those so that then we now set the ground rules. Before you know it, what is happening? You said it is suspended indefinitely, and that the National Broadcasting Commission should go ahead and start regulating this. Believe me, we must not do things that will show that we don't want freedom, of speech or anything that will tamper with the liberty of the people. Believe me, this is a democracy, and what oils the engine of democracy is people must get involved. They must keep talking, and when they do, it is for everybody's benefit.
Finally, on this, Babajide, once again, our Attorney General has said something that inflamed Nigerians again, and this is saying that anybody that is found to have used this Twitter will be prosecuted. Because
how many people are going to catch?
Most officials of federal government have used Twitter after.
Yes, even people in government.
I can name them.
The people in government, they are still, after the president, after that directive was issued, it didn't go into effect immediately. Okay. They were still using it. They were still using Twitter. The truth is, I don't know how banks, for example, because a lot of the solution-based work of the banks rely so much on Twitter, to interface with customers and get solutions solved. If a bank refuses to refund your money, for example, and you go to Twitter to complain, it gets done immediately. And there are many Nigerians making money from Twitter, young people making money from Twitter. So when we want to take decisions at times, we need to look at the bigger picture Imagine that a lot of people will suffer just because of the decision that we have taken. For someone like me, that was why I felt, well, this was harsh. And it is possible for government to interface with Twitter and still achieve its aims without necessarily resorting to banning Twitter indefinitely. This is the feeling that I have. And I'm sure that at the end of the day, this whole matter will be resolved.
Thank you for staying with us. Eternal vigilance is not just the price of freedom, but that of security of lives and property as well. Governors of Southwest states have directed commanders of the Southwest Security Network, popularly called Amotekun, to commence joint operations to fight insecurity in the region. Chairman of the Southwest Governors Forum and Ondo State Governor Oluwarotimi Akeredolu stated days following latest attack on Igongon community in Oyo State. Governor Akeredolu says the joint operations will combat growing herders attacks usually launched from the forest in the region. Babajide, this Igongon, what happened the first time? It's looking so much like a reprisal attack.
I don't know. I don't know how to describe what has happened. I've said repeatedly that all these reprisal attacks will not take us anywhere. It will just create a cycle of unended killings. Because if you say you come to launch a reprisal attack, you leave some people dead, the children of the dead will be filled with vengeance as well. And they too will want to carry out their own attack another time. So this is how we create needless crises that we could be fighting for years and years. We've seen communities that have been at war for more than 40 years. This is the sort of thing that leads to it. An attack happens, okay, you are not going to wait for government to resolve it. You imagine that we are a lawless state where the law does not have to be obeyed, and then you take the law into your hands and begin to kill people. It's a senseless thing to embark on reprisal attacks. It's a senseless thing. If every attack or every killing by a group must be avenged, the world will not be what it is today. And that's why Mahatma Gandhi said, an eye for an eye makes the world go blind. If we must take somebody's eye because they took your own, then all of us will eventually be blind. We won't have eyes. I mean, it's senseless, these things going on. It's senseless.
And it's deteriorating.
It's a lot of even the attacks in the north, in Zamfara, in Katsina, a lot of it are reprisal attacks, either for attacks carried out by vigilantes, killings by vigilantes, and that's why the governor of Zamfara said, okay, I'm banning Ensake because Ensake is the vigilance group that the Hausas set up against the Fulani. This whole thing, the killings in the north, began more like ethnic battles. That's what it is. Then some group now became bandits. One of the two groups became bandits.
Now have access to mercenaries.
Yes, they bring in mercenaries from even outside of Nigeria to come and fight on their behalf.
And there's a way they send signals to them. Anyway, they are distressed.
Yes, they send signals to them. Oh, come and avenge the killing. So. They just come. They don't even know you. They start killing people. In the case of Igongon, for example, the people knew that an attack would happen. A lot of what we are reading on the social media, a lot of it is not true. The people prepared for this attack. If not for that, honestly, it could have been worse.
Oh, the Gongon guys.
Yes. They prepared for this. They prepared for this attack. The people were ready. And thanks to the efforts of the police, the Amotekun that worked together, they were able to beat back these guys and killed out of the official figure of 11. 5 of the attackers were killed. So if it was,
would have claimed more casualties.
If they were not prepared at all, it will have been worse. It will have been worse because the hunters were prepared, they were ready, and they were able to limit the extent of the killings. Now, there's that sort of vigilance that has to continue.
The one that fled.
Exactly.
I listened to his interview on BBC, and it was like, oh, anytime he hears the name Sunday Igboho, that fear comes to his mind, and he was trying to paint the picture of how much he has lost. His forefather, his grandfather, was a big successful farmer and cow seller in Igongon, that he lost over 300 cows. He said he lost over 200 million properties and everything. Now, somebody like that now, just imagine that might have fueled this kind of reprisal. If that person is, I think it's somewhere in Glory now.
Yes,
and, you know, he's saying that his grandfather is from the place. And in the interview, he was speaking Yoruba, flawless Yoruba.
No doubt the Fulani migration to the southwest dates back to over 2 centuries ago. Even the Seriki Fulani of Lagos is the 4th generation of Fulani that have been in Lagos. Been in Lagos for a very long time. And when he goes to Sokoto, he always say that, I'm going back home when he's coming back to Lagos. So there are people like that who have settled there for a very long time. And that's why we expect such people to use their position to nip the crisis in the bud. Because he's talking about items that were lost and all that, but all those things are not combined, are not up to the loss of one human life. And I think what has happened is quite unfortunate. Like Babajide said, we all knew this would happen. Apart from the communities that knew there was going to be a reprisal attack, there have been warning signals. The commander of Amotekun in Oyo State, General Togun,
yes,
he warned just about 8 days ago,
yes,
that there were plans to attack communities
with foreign
in
fighters.
Southwest, and he mentioned Igono. And of course, we have had reports of international intelligence agency. So we have expected preventive measures, not just by the communities alone, but by the federal government and the state government. Maybe in terms of deployment of troops in those areas to preempt possible attacks. Because when you see the trend, when these attackers come, most of the time there are innocent people that are victims, old people that are too old to run from their homes, children, pregnant women, nursing mothers.
They don't have any rules, of engagements.
And we should be conscious of the fact that this was how the crisis in Kaduna started. In Northeast, the same pattern. Northwest, the same pattern. South, Middle Belt. So we should not allow the country to have a 360-degree circle of violence. I'm appalled by, the fact that we are seeing violence almost every day and everywhere. And it's as if we are just hopeless, we are helpless. And I don't think we should be in that kind of situation. Once you have legal authority, the state should be able to stem in the bud this spate of killings before it gets out of hand.
Caroline is calling us from Ikoyi in Lagos Island. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Go ahead with your contribution, please.
Okay. Hello. I watch this program every evening. I wouldn't do without watching it. At least we can see and hear what is happening in Nigeria. I just want to say that this last thing that happened yesterday or the day before, this Igongo killings, we say they are reprisals. But before these reprisals, we've had this problem now for at least 2 years. Farmers being killed, children being slaughtered. They cannot even graze their crops. And the fact that this Cherokee Fulani man, when they sent him away at that time, he was part of this thing. He knew where the people were coming from. He did nothing about it. At the end of the day, why should we now let them come back in again and do what happened yesterday? Like Jide says, If not that the people were prepared. They turned down the petrol station. They turned down the Obat Palace there. People were killed again. How come they're able to get back in again after they have been sent away? We cannot continue like this, and it's getting worse. And they're even in Lagos as well. If the government in the beginning had stopped this thing 2 years ago, when the press were calling on them that this is what is happening, little by little by little, even Makinde, look at what he had to say.
Thank you, Caroline. Thank you for your contribution. Imagine Caroline saying we cannot just continue like this because now
that's the point. People who are so bloodthirsty that at every opportunity they'll be asking for vengeance, this and that. If the people of Benue were to avenge the killing of more than 100 people in one day, the governor had to bury more than 100 people in one day. If they were to avenge that, do you know what would have happened?
Lucky.
Do you know what will have happened? And these killings have not stopped. Just killing our people as if our people are as worthless as dogs. Even animals do not deserve to be wasted in this manner because they are creations of God. We just move around killing people in the name of reprisal attacks. Let the Lord take his course. You cannot avenge every attack. It's just not practicable. Because when you do that, others too have the will think that they have the right to also avenge the killing of their people. That's why it has to stop. In Bali, in Taraba State, people are being killed also in the name of reprisal attack. When will this stop? It doesn't happen in civilized nations. That you heard, okay, gunmen enter the place, kill people, then there must be reprisal attacks. What sort of thing is that? When are we going to stop all this nonsense? Just simply killing people, innocent people. Come in the cover of darkness, not to kill your mates, but kill innocent people, women and children. Largely, those are the people, the greatest victims of all of these so-called reprisal attacks are usually women and children. Women and children. Not able-bodied people, women and children. That's what we see. I'm happy that the governor of Ondo State has said that there should be joint patrol by Amotekun. I had warned on this platform that Amotekun should not be turned to an urban security outfit. As all the governors are using them to enforce curfew. No. Send them to the hinterland. Because the cowards who kill people, they don't go to the city to kill people. It is those remote communities that they go to kill people. Check the trend. Have you ever heard that those people, they hired the paid killers roaming around? Have you ever heard that they went to an urban center to kill people? No, it's remote areas because even they want to carry out their killings without being resisted. That's what they want. Have you heard that they came to a city center, maybe in Lagos, for example, to come and kill people? They don't do it. So defend those communities, defend those areas, keep them at bay. And Oyo has someone who used to be commissioner of police here in Lagos. So he should do that job a lot better.
Okay. I think Nasir is calling us from Moe. Thank you, Nasir.
Yeah. Baba Jide, if God will protect us in this country, I appreciate you people.
Thanks.
Like Oditolu just mentioned now, the former commissioner of police in Lagos spoke this morning on TVC, and he said we should not politicize this thing. Honestly, we should be very careful in this country. Yes, I voted for this government, but now what is happening in terms of security is unbearable. It's very, very unbearable. And it's sad. Honestly, it's sad. I was born in the East. It was the Civil War that brought us back to Lagos. That's where I bear Bamidele Nasir. And those that know the interpretation of that Bamidele, that means I was not born in my real hometown. That is the love honestly, this thing is getting too much. We should learn to live together as one. Either Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba. We are not animals, please.
No, Thank you.
Some people have an agenda.
Yes, one other point. That's what I want to raise.
Some people are determined.
What I want to raise now, if somebody is telling me, like, I've spoken with the Seriki Fulani of Lagos several times, and sometimes if he's talking, he will talk to you in Yoruba language, and he's telling me his forefathers, everybody, they were doing business here, his children, they don't know any other place. So how come we can't see ourselves as one? Why must we always put this dichotomy, and if there are bad eggs within a certain ethnic stock, why must we generalize that this set of people, this set of people?
That will
divide us the more.
There are always fringe elements in every society, extremists. And it's our inability to isolate and deal decisively with them that has brought us to this level. There are moderates, there are conservatives, there are extremists. People think that, look, the only weapon they want to use in any engagement is violence. They are not doing it for their own tribe. If you have an effective security system, they will have been located, they will have been monitored. Even as they were coming, they will have been sighted. And then preventive measures will have been taken.
We don't have the technology.
Drones.
It's not so much a lack of intelligence.
We discuss 2021 Democracy Day to broaden the discourse on the value of June 12 and its lessons for socio-political growth of Nigeria. I'll be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju and Adewale Adeoye. So, happy democracy, gentlemen. Babajide, June 12, 28 years down that line, 28 years down the line. It's like something is now becoming somebody that was born 28 years ago.
It's a fully grown adult. And it just seems like yesterday. But one thing that gives me joy is that it has remained the authentic Nigerian Democracy Day. Even when we had May 29, in the hearts of many Nigerians, that was the real Democracy Day. And it has pleased God to use President Muhammadu Buhari to make June 12 by law the official Democracy Day of our country. And this is the second anniversary of June 12 as Democracy Day. And so it gladdens our hearts. And it's on Saturday, but the federal government still had to declare a public holiday Monday. Yes.
Successive administration since 1999. From that 1999, they've done everything just to make sure that June 12 is seen as a sectional celebration, is seen as something that history will not remember in Nigeria. And because the way they behaved, talking about even the former President Olusegun Obasanjo, throughout, he did not acknowledge that day. Yeah. But as God will have it now, President Muhammadu Buhari, that did not play any role during that struggle, actually decided to glamorize this June 12.
I think we knew all along that one day, someone will realize the importance of June 12, that it was a matter of time. And we are not surprised that at the fullness of time, the date was recognized by the federal government. It's unfortunate that even President Obasanjo, that came from the same state with Abiola, did not see the importance. So I think there's no way you can suppress truth forever. At one time or the other, people will come to realize the fact that there was an historical event on June 12 that cannot be swept under the carpet.
On the 12th of June, Nigerians celebrate Democracy Day. The date remains a watershed in the country's political journey. As Nigerians celebrate the second edition of the new Democracy Day and the 28th anniversary of that historical election in 1993, regarded as the freest and fairest in our history, it evokes different significance and value for many. But what is June 12 to you? Babajide, anytime you think about June 12, as I was entering the studio, I asked Wale Adeoye, I said, where were you on the 12th of June? 1993. So let's start from that, please.
Yes, I was in Kano. As a cub reporter in Kano. I was still trying to find my feet. I had barely spent 6 months in the town, not up to 6 months in the town, because just 6 months before then, I was even still chairman of the Democrat newspapers, AUJ channel.
6 months before that,
chapel, yes, an election that I won while in my mid-20s and defeated somebody from the core north. I became the first Yoruba person to win an election of that magnitude in that part of the country. So then I got the job of the news, and I had to leave. So I was in Kano still trying to find my feet, and this election came. I covered the election in Zoo Road, where I used to live. I was living in our quarters, Zoo Road. I covered the election there, covered the election in the government house polling station in the Nasarawa area of Kano, moved around to Sabongeri just to feel the mood of the people on that day. And then I returned to the Zoo Road area to try and get some information about the counting of ballots and all that. It was an enjoyable election because of option A4, you see clearly who is voting for who. In fact, and people were even exchanging banters. You see people from the same household lining up in different places.
That great option A4.
Yes. So you see people there on the queue making fun of one another. You will see today that we are going to defeat you. You know, it was fun. And lo and behold, Abiola defeated Bashir Tofa in the polling station in front of his house by an audacious margin.
Audacious margin?
Yes. That, to me, set the tone for what we were going to see. Because before then, a few weeks before then, the late Chukwemeka Ojukwu came to Kano, and they invited us journalists to Central Hotel, to his suite in Central Hotel, and he was campaigning for the NRC.
Kimba himself?
Yes. And I told him while he was campaigning, I said, see, you've always wanted a Southerner to become president. Now, this is the best chance. This is the best chance for a Southerner to become president in several decades. And you have now begun to campaign against that Southerner. Because Tell magazine in the week of the election.
Ironical to what it stands for.
Yes.
What he was fighting for in that time.
Even as a small boy, I confronted him at that press conference. I said, why must it be you? You granted Tell an interview where you were saying, why should a part of the country without a big river be producing the chief of naval staff? He was referring then to Baba Mimongoro. He was referring to Baba Mimongoro at that time. You know, yes. So I said, now a Southerner, the North has made up his mind that this thing should go to the South. You are now working against that. So you could look at my audacity and he said, see, I have no regret. The reason I'm doing this is because I can seal Igbo blood on the other ballot. I mean, a Christian blood on the other ballot. Yes, and I can see Igbo blood on that ballot.
His deputy.
You know, because Sylvester Ugo was Christian, Sylvester Ugo, Igbo. He said the other ballot does not represent Christians. That is Abiola and Babagana.
Meanwhile, the Christians didn't mind.
No, nobody was. If the people of the North could reject their own son. And I also told him, I said, you will lose this election, sir. I told him right there. I said, you will lose this election, sir. Because from the mood of the nation. It was clear, and Rimi granted Tell an interview. It was their cover interview the week of the election, where Rimi said it is the turn of the South. I'm sure. So with that, we knew that something was going to happen.
Well, what is June 12 to you?
Well, I think June 12 means a lot. At that time, I was with the Guardian newspapers.
Guardian?
Yes. And I was covering politics and also defense. So my mandate at that time, I was very new in the media profession. And I was covering the election. And we were all looking out for, a very good outing, because we had been under military tyranny for 7 years with so many atrocities. The economy was in ruins. Newspapers were closed, for years, for months. There was SAP. There was so many cases of human rights violations. NLC had been banned and unbanned, and so was banned. So Nigerians were tired, and they wanted someone that will symbolize their freedom. And even before that election, there had been so many primaries that were cancelled.
Yes.
Yaradua, all of them, because the military wanted the military wanted an election that will produce somebody that will represent and defend their own interests. They never knew that Abiola was a man of his words, a man of the people. He mounted a highly sophisticated campaign machinery. That's Abiola. All over the country.
1993.
The campaign slogan, the campaign strategy, the media strategy, the consultation with the masses, the consultation with different layers of Nigerians. So I think at the end of the day, we knew that he was going to win that election, because before that election was annulled, we had received reports from 14 states. Before eventually, when the federal government, the government of the military noticed that, Abiola was winning, then they had to cancel the election. So I think, from the result we got later on, the total vote was about 14,293. 14,293,396. Out of which Abiola won 8,341,309, representing 58%. And Tofa won 5,952.087, representing 41.64%. And interesting about that election was that, like Jibagidi said, Abiola won, he defeated Tofa in Kano with a margin of about 15,000 votes. Abiola won some of the core northern states, the traditional, northern states. He won, and interestingly too, Tofa's votes also cut across ethnic divide. He won in Abia State. He also won in Rivers. So you could see that Nigerians have the potential to unite across ethnic and religious divide. So it was a demonstration of unity by Nigerians from all spheres of life. And it was quite unfortunate that at the end of the day, that election had to be cancelled. So I think the election was free, because I went through, I was going from one polling booth to the other. I didn't see any military on the highways, on the streets. Policemen were not carrying weapons. People expressed their will out of free conviction, that this is the kind of person they wanted to be there. And I think Abiola was prepared for that. He had a fantastic blueprint, abolition of poverty. And he was drumming this all over the world. He had figures about the economy, about the oil, and he had a plan of transformation for the country. So I think it was a huge opportunity that we missed. It also showed the infinite capacity of man, to commit evil. Because I never imagined that people can rise to the extent of annulling that kind of election, given all the global, excitement that was associated with it. It also shows that some Nigerians have the capacity to support evil, irrespective of just for personal interest, because there were few individuals on the fringe who also supported the annulment of June 12th.
A trailblazer in our electoral process, a watershed in the country's democratic struggle, a symbolic date for the unity of Nigeria. June 12 is of significant essence for the country. But what is its value? Jide?
June 12 has come to be seen as a thermometer for measuring the unity of our nation. Because on that day, Nigerians spoke as one. The things dividing us now, shamelessly, as a people, we put those things aside on that day. It's like utopia in today's Nigeria. To even think of it in today's Nigeria is utopia. Utopia like something that is unrealizable. Something that you merely mouth it, it is impossible to make it happen. So June 12 has raised the bar for us. And as Nigerians, we must begin to try to bring ourselves back to that level. That level when we will see each other simply as brothers and as sisters, not as competitors within the Nigerian Federation, because that's how we see ourselves now.
Liko is calling from Boston, Massachusetts. Thank you for joining us, Liko.
Hey, how you guys doing today?
Very well, thank
fine.
you. Nice to have you. All the way from Boston.
Okay. So my contribution this morning is that, to me, I see that Nigeria has three major problems. The first thing I see is the problem of greed, religion, and tribalism. Like in every developed world, these are the three things that are kind of separated from governments in all the developed countries. So like you said, in June 12, Abiola represented the unity of Nigeria. Until the time we begin to come back together as one, that's the only time Nigeria will begin to make a lot of progress. Mm-hmm. And like you guys normally say, you informed us a lot, and we guys that were in the diaspora, we follow you guys. You're the one that really make us know what is truly going on in Nigeria. Mm-hmm. And as Baba used to say, Nigerians in the diaspora, we are doing very well. We have a lot of knowledge and experience that we can bring home for Nigeria to become a better place.
Yeah.
The only problem that we have is these three things: greed, religion, and tribalism. If we put all these three things in check, I think Nigeria is a great nation, and Nigeria will be part of the greatest nation in the world. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for calling all the way from the rest of
I wish we
Boston,
can put
Massachusetts.
the message from him is that Nigeria will be a truly great nation when we can put all of these issues that divide us aside. And I think even great nations of the world, some of those nations are envious of Nigeria. They know that there is so much potential here. We have not been lucky to have good leaders. But the potential of Nigeria is tremendous. The day or when we begin to have a succession of very good leaders, maybe like 3 solid leaders on the bounce, the world will take notice of Nigeria. Mandela didn't just mention Nigeria, he saw his own country. He didn't say, he said, Nigeria is the true giant of Africa. There is a reason behind that. And these politicians dividing us must know that they are the enemies of our country, bent on ensuring that our country does not reach its true potential.
The great Chinese general and military strategist Sun Tzu once said in his famous book, The Art of War, that the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. The Nigerian army seems to be towing this line in long drawn-out war against insurgency. Speaking at a media party organized by the Army for Journalists in Maiduguri, the general officer commanding GOC of 7th Division of the Nigerian Army, Brigadier General A.A. Ejitayo, urged a remnant of the Boko Haram terrorists to surrender and embrace peace after suffering some defeats recently. Meanwhile, the army says more than 7,000 soldiers maimed in the war against insurgency have undergone treatment at the 44th Nigeria Army Reference Hospital, Kaduna. The acting chief medical director of the hospital, Colonel Stephen Onuchukwu, told a visiting delegation from the National Assembly led by the Senate President Ahmed Lawal that the wounded in action soldiers were those brought to the facility since the insurgency began years ago. Jide, I want us to start from these 7,000 soldiers. When you look at the proportion, if this war is over 10 years, if it started 2009, and we've recorded soldiers that, they've been maimed during this war against insurgency, that I'm sure the army will want to readily release the number of soldiers we've lost to the war. But I'm sure that it will not be something that will be cheerful at all. 7,000 maimed soldiers.
Yes.
Most of them will be capacitated.
Most of them can never fight again. Amputees, you need to go to their hospital, because I've been there before. It's a sobering experience to go to 44 reference hospital in Kaduna to see our troops. Yes, to see our troops. You will shed tears. I saw a story in which the former chief of army staff went there.
Yes, General Brate,
to lift their spirits.
Yes,
these are people.
You had lunch with them.
Yes, these are people who, in bold relief, show you clearly why war is not a desirable thing.
People campaigning for war.
People go to war. People think that war is a tea party. It's so easy to deal with an enemy like Boko Haram. Many of these guys have lost their both legs. There are videos of Nigerian troops running into IEDs,
yes.
And you are seeing it as it just happened. The two legs are gone. No ambulance in the vicinity. And we are trying to pack them in that state. You can imagine the pain that person is going through, and is being carried, because when someone suffers like that, there says that you need to be able to carry that person with some skill. But even their colleagues that are carrying them, they do not even have the experience. They don't have the know-how as to how to, somebody is in that level of distress. They don't know how to approach them. In fact, you will find when the person, some of them will be saying, oh, I'm finished. You hear them say, no, why are you saying you are finished? He could see that he has lost both legs.
Now, what else again?
So, the army admitting that more than 7,000 maimed, you can only imagine how many soldiers we have lost. But where they suffer setback and you talk about it, they will not be happy, especially the generals, the senior people in the army. That's the way they are. This war has consumed thousands and thousands of our troops. There are phases of the war that I know that we lost no less than 40 soldiers in one day.
Fatality.
40 in just one, no, just even one phase of the war. I'm not even saying that in a day. There could be more lost in that same day, but one phase of the battle. We ran into an ambush in Dambua. There was one in Dambua. We lost up to 44 soldiers. This is the
idea when you see it on social media that this one just wedded last week.
And it's gone.
Just wedded, is gone. Captain,
gone.
Major,
I still saw one 3 days ago. An army captain, one of the soldiers posted. The army has said that soldiers should not post stuff on social media, but somehow
people still,
yes, you know. I still saw one a few days back. Apparently a commander who was also lost. I think that one was also a captain. We lose majors, we lose lieutenant colonels. So it's always painful when you lose a commander. We lost a colonel in Metele, that's Colonel Sakaba from Kebbi State. It's painful when you lose a commander because of the training that they must have gone through. But when you talk about all these low-ranked soldiers, oh my God, we've lost so many.
Other ranks.
We've lost so many.
Okay. Now, if this captain, if this GOC, if he's talking about, guys, lay down on your arms, that it's time, that it's not something we love doing to kill you guys, that it's not as if we are bloodthirsty, that it is time you come to join the process so that we can de-radicalize you. Is this showing strength that we are on top of our game at the war front, that we have everything in our hands, that the only thing left for us is to squash these people?
Not at all.
Because if you see the way the GOC was sounding...
It's not. I'll beg to differ, because the GOC, what he had just said, is an element of the policy of appeasement. You know, the Nigerian state has for long decided to embrace, you know, in the fight against this insurgency.
Policy of appeasement.
Yes, yes. And it has not worked.
The process of radicalizing these elements.
It has not worked. If you go through the states in the north that have embraced this policy of appeasement, the bandits, most of them, after they must have, you know, come back and surrender their arms. It's just a question of time before they go back. And that is why if you watch the action taken by the Katsina State Governor, Bello Masara, he was the person that was preaching for this issue of, you know, giving them amnesty. And some of them embraced it. But what happened? When they went back,
after some time,
he now decided to go back to the parliament, you know, the state assembly, to enact, you know, a law that states clearly that these people are criminals and they deserve the maximum penal punishment. So
discovered that wasn't working.
Yeah, it wasn't. It's not going to work. When the iron, you have your iron hot, that is when you beat it. Itaya was telling us that the recent, you know, onslaught against these insurgents, you know, had put them in this array. If you are fighting a war of this nature, that is the moment for you to now finish them off. But that is not happening. If this is not the language that insurgents understand, asking them to surrender and lay down their arms. We've seen all over the world where counter-insurgencies are being fought. In Afghanistan, you know, in Iraq, in Syria, in Somalia. They don't obey such law of surrendering arms. So the Nigerian state should give the Nigerian army whatever they need to finish them off. We cannot end this war by getting these people to surrender.